Wondering what deck you're going to play for the launch of Descent of Dragons? Well, I've got some suggestions in this video.
Hey buddy, watch this.
Like this HANDLOCK from KOLENTO, and I've got a handful of other decks in this video too from community members who've theory crafted some deck lists or maybe even play tested them already in the theory crafting live stream that I was a part of. So these have already shown some promising or at the very least intriguing results. And although I wouldn't recommend you craft any of these or go out of your way to craft these, if you open some of these cards in your packs and you can start to build a deck list that looks a little bit like this, it's probably going to be a good day one option for you. So for instance, with this deck list by KOLENTO, it looks like HANDLOCK is going to be a pretty cool new deck. I certainly enjoyed playing it and found a lot of success with it as well in the Theory Crafting live stream with Valdris Fellgorge now a part of the equation. You can make your hands even bigger, and we all need big hands. And that means Mountain Giants get cheaper, Twilight Drakes get bigger, the new card Abyssal Summoner summons some really big stuff, but also you can just maintain a lot of resources. And KOLENTO added a really cool package into this one that I myself didn't see, which is Expired Merchant and Soul Warden, which can do two things. They can help you keep that hand really full, which is nice, but also just generate a ton of extra value as well, which sometimes decks like this need to grind things out. So KOLENTO has a handful of new cards that are powerful removal tools like Dark Skies, Crazed Netherwing. Those seem like they're going to be awesome staples for any kind of control-y Warlock deck, and certainly they still work just fine for this one. Now, he doesn't have a ton of dragons in this list for that Nether Breath, so maybe you could add one or two more dragons here if you're thinking that you need some extra consistency, but nonetheless, this is still a pretty powerful looking list with some silly late game options and just lots and lots of cool threats that you can generate. So this is a great return to the forefront of a beloved archetype in HANDLOCK. It's one I've missed. It's one I want to see again. Even Lock didn't really scratch that itch for me, and I'm hoping that this really does become a high tier meta deck. So now let's move over to the deck I think I found the most success with in the Theory Crafting live stream. This is a Dragon Highlander Mage that I put together. And of course, it's utilizing the new card Dragon Queen Alexstrasza because she's a new Highlander support card. We've already seen Highlander Mage work really nicely. This one just adds in some new good cards and a dragon support package to empower things like the new card Arcane Breath, and just because Malygos is a new card that can do a lot of work, I think, in this style of deck, so why not? And then finally, Dragoncaster is another Dragon Synergy card that offers a really cool potential burst damage combo because you can actually just play a 0-mana Pyroblast with your Dragoncaster alongside something like a Fireball simultaneously for a big time 16 damage burst combo with the original Alexstrasza in your deck. Sometimes you can just pop your opponent to 15 and then burn them next turn for 16. But even if you can't, this deck just contains a lot of control and grindy stuff and threats and some late game options. And of course, Zephyrus can always just steal wins as well. So all in all, a lot of tools in this deck, some great usage of new cards, and probably one of the things I'll be most excited to play, except for maybe HANDLOCK, in the new expansion. So next up here, let's take a look at a pure Paladin from my good buddy Trump. This is a deck that utilizes only class cards, no neutral cards, which appears to be a new archetype for Paladin, primarily because it's fueled by two really crazy looking cards. Lightforged Zealot is basically a 4/2 that equips a True Silver Champion for free. That's ridiculous for 4 mana. And then Lightforged Crusaders, this big bomb reload card that can help you just go crazy. If you play a really aggressive deck, you can still top out, find more resources, and just keep going and keep maintaining pressure. And that's pretty much what this list is all about. I don't know if I would call this an aggro Paladin so much as a mid-range Paladin, because there are quite a few mid to late game cards there at the top end of the list. But nonetheless, it offers some aggressive start opportunities. You can start dumping minions into the field, follow them up with some big pressure, Blessing of Kings, you know, your Lightforged Zealots. You've even got that Nozdorm of the Timeless in there, which I don't know if that fits, but Trump went for it, so more respect to him. And then just some big powerful stuff to close out games like Silver Sword and Tyrion Forgery. So I'll be honest, this isn't exactly how I would build this list. I think I would actually push even more aggressively than this and use Lightforged Crusader as a sort of divine favor, full-on reload that tops out the deck. I don't think I would have gone any higher than that in mana cost, and certainly wouldn't have included so many 7 and 8 drop options here. But Trump's a smart guy, and some kind of pure / paladin deck is probably going to see some play. So if you get a lot of Paladin cards in your pack openings, don't fret. You might be able to just toss those into a deck. Even if it doesn't look exactly like this one, keep an eye on this archetype moving forward, but this is a pretty good place to start on day 1, and then you can go from there. So now let's take a look at a deck that I really hesitate to include at all, but it's definitely going to be a good launch day option if you want to win some games, or if there is like a heroic tavern brawl. Something to do with Pirate Galakron Warrior seems like it's going to be the, crazy deck to open the expansion that wins a lot of games. It may not stay there. We may refine other aggro lists. But for now, because of Galakron's hero power that gives you +3 damage, that means anytime you invoke, you get +3 damage on your face, and you can just pile on a ton of damage, particularly when supported by an already aggressive pirate package. It fits really, really well. So you got tons of weapons, tons of early game pressure, and just that constant damage piling up over time. So not only is Galakrond, of course, in this and an invoke card package, but you've also got new pirates like your Sky Raider and your Parachute Brigand. You've got Sky Barge, which is really one of the centerpiece linchpins, I'd say, of this deck as well, just allowing you to pump out lots of extra chip damage and face damage in some cases, or just clean minion kills as well. So a bunch of different engines here that support an archetype we already know is oppressive and terrible and evil, and maybe this is the new iteration of it that's even scarier, which, look, I'm not excited about. I recommend you don't play this deck, honestly, but in good conscience, I have to give it to you. I have to say, like, look, this is going to be a good deck for you. I want people to win games. It's really Blizzard's fault if this is successful. It's not my fault. Don't put it on me. But I do think this will be one of the higher win rate decks you can play on launch day, even if it's not necessarily the most enjoyable for you or your opponents. And then finally here for my last deck, I've got a Tempo Rogue from JALEXANDER, who's really one of the preeminent rogue players in the world. Very, very gifted rogue player, and this is what he's seeing as one of the great ways to play Tempo Rogue moving forward. And I like this list because it actually includes quite a few surprising new cards, along with, of course, some old staples as well for Rogue. Namely, I'd say Flick Skyshiv there at the top end of the curve. Pretty cool card to serve as a either single target removal or kind of shenanigan solver that can deal with some crazy stuff your opponent can do. You've also got things like Troll Batrider, just a very reasonable mid-game tempo tool helping you take some trades onto the board. And then you've got things like Dragon's Horde even making this list, empowering cards like Vendetta, of course, because it is a thief style card, and it's another consistent way to get your Underbelly Fence out on turn 2, which I think is really cool. And then Blazing Battle Mage, a card that might have slipped under some people's radars there, but I think a card with a lot of potential just as a neutral 1-mana 2/2. It's a great opener and a great combo activator for a class like Rogue, and I'm glad JALEXANDER spotted that and supported my theories that that card could perhaps be pretty solid. So all in all here, some of the kind of structure of the Tempo Rogue we're used to, but some new pieces in the mix, and it just looks like a very clean, efficient deck that I think will be very good on day 1, just because there's nothing about this that's trying anything crazy. It's not trying to be ridiculous. It's just reliable, good, smooth Hearthstone, and generally those things work very well. It seems foolproof in a way. It also doesn't look too expensive from a crafting standpoint. So as far as I'm concerned, a fantastic and maybe even the best recommendation of any deck on this video. And there you go. Those are some decks to try on the launch day of Descent of Dragons. And again, I'll remind you, don't go out of your way to crazy craft any of these. Like, don't make a Nozdormu just for a pure Paladin by Trump, right? I can't advise that. But if you open all those cards, you can put together, 25 cards in that list, then maybe that's what you go for. Just sprinkle in some stuff that you see fit there. But wait a few days at least to start making big time dust decisions, and maybe even wait a week or two to really lock into anything, because metas can always change a lot in that first week. That said, we'll be bringing you more crazy decks, cool decks, powerful decks over the next week or two. So if you enjoyed this video, you want to see more deck coverage, both individually, but also some lists like this to help you make sense of the meta, then of course, hit that subscribe button. I'm getting really, really close to 100,000 now, so I can see it. I want it, and every sub helps. So if you like this, you want to see more of it, just makes sense. That said, share your thoughts on these decks below. Any decks you're excited to try in the comments as well. But until then, thanks much for watching, and until next time, game on.
Dragons take flight above the ice and snow.